Welcome to another episode of Dating Decoded.
Today we are diving deep. Get ready for Speed Mingle Unfiltered.
So, we've all been there on a Friday night. The couch cushions have just seemingly swallowed you whole.
Oh, yeah. The Friday night slump.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The TV is playing something that you aren't really watching at all, and your thumb is just mechanically sweeping across your phone screen. Just left, right, left.
Right. It's totally reflexive at this point.
It is. And honestly, it almost doesn't matter what app happens to be open. It could be a dating app where you're trying to find someone who, actually wants a real conversation instead of just being a pen pal for 3 weeks.
Yeah. Which is exhausting in its own right.
Totally. Or maybe it's a professional networking site and you're just doom scrolling through these endless, highly manufactured posts of people bragging about corporate synergy or whatever.
The humble brags.
The humble brags. And you're just hoping to find just one authentic mentor in your industry. Or, maybe you've recently relocated, right? And you're tapping through local community boards, desperately searching for a group that just wants to grab a beer and debate the nuances of some obscure television show.
Right. You're just looking for your people.
Exactly. But the physical action is the exact same, regardless of the intent. You're putting in the digital hours. But then when you finally lock your screen, your battery is at 5%. And your social soul just feels entirely hollow.
It's bleak. But, it's the great paradox of modern sociology, really.
How so?
Well, we're currently living in the most technologically hyper-connected era in the history of the human race, yet we're collectively drowning in this profound, isolating phenomenon of digital burnout. We've spent, the last decade and a half basically trying to optimize the search for human connection.
Right, with the algorithms and all that.
Yeah. We've introduced filters, tags, geolocation, algorithmic curation to such an extreme degree that we've inadvertently filtered the actual humanity right out of the equation.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredibly true.
We've commodified ourselves. We're essentially trying to select our friends, our professional collaborators, our romantic partners from this catalog of two-dimensional, statically curated advertisements. We treat socializing like online shopping.
And it yields the exact same empty dopamine hit. You buy the thing, or you get the match, and then nothing.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that specific fatigue, right, that absolute exhaustion of the algorithm, that is the central target of our deep dive today.
It's a fascinating topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we are looking at a highly specific upcoming in-real-life event that claims to be a direct antidote to this modern frustration for you. It's called the Justo Midsummer Speed Mingle.
The Speed Mingle.
Right. And it's happening on July 21st, 2026, down in Pensacola, Florida. And our mission for this deep dive today is to basically deconstruct the architecture of this event using the organizers' source materials. Because they aren't just, throwing a party here.
No, not at all. They are attempting a pretty radical piece of social engineering.
Right. But before we get into the mechanics of how they're actually doing this, we really need to draw a very hard line in the sand right out of the gate.
A crucial distinction.
Yes. This is a speed mingle event.
Yeah.
It is emphatically not a traditional speed dating event.
Yeah.
So if your brain instantly conjures up an image of a depressing community center
with those flickering fluorescent lights,
bad lighting, the squeaky folding chairs, and people wearing those really desperate stick-on name tags, you need to wipe that slate completely clean. But it's not what this is.
And that distinction they're drawing in the source material, it's vital to understanding the shift in social dynamics that's taking place here. We're witnessing a clear societal backlash against algorithmic isolation, sure, but we're also seeing a complete rejection of those high-pressure, single-outcome environments of the past.
Right, the old school model.
Yeah, the traditional quote-unquote meat market speed dating scene was entirely focused on romantic acquisition. And that just creates a very specific, often highly uncomfortable tension in a room.
Oh, it's palpable.
It is. So this new model, this speed mingle, it's an attempt to resurrect structured yet highly organic face-to-face chemistry, but without the singular crushing pressure of having to find a soulmate before the buzzer rings.
So to give you a better mental framework for what we're actually talking about today, imagine taking a traditional speed dating framework, right?
Yeah.
But then colliding it at high speed with a really sophisticated high-end business after-hours mixer.
Okay, a weird collision.
Right. But then take whatever survives that collision and merge it with a genuinely great, relaxed Friday night gathering with your absolute favorite, most interesting coworkers and friends.
That's a great vibe check.
Yeah. that resulting hybrid, this completely different social ecosystem, that is what the Just Midsummer Speed Mingle is attempting to build here.
And the foundational question we really have to explore first is the motivation behind it. Like, why is there a sudden surging willingness from people to pay for ticketed, structured, in-person events when we have literally dozens of free apps sitting in our pocket?
To the million-dollar question.
Right, and the source material makes it abundantly clear. They're explicitly targeting that digital burnout we just talked about. The value proposition here is a direct trade.
A trade of what exactly?
Well, attendees are essentially being asked to surrender the illusion of infinite choice that apps provide, the endless swipe. And in return, the event provides an environment engineered for authentic, immediate physical chemistry.
Yeah, they make a pretty massive claim in their marketing about that. They basically argue that no matter how flawless your ring light is or how meticulously you've crafted your bio with the perfect emojis, static filtered profile pictures simply cannot compete with letting a dynamic human personality operate in a three-dimensional space.
They're essentially calling out the inherent deception of the digital profile.
Exactly.
And honestly, the psychology behind that claim is incredibly sound, because when we consume a digital profile, we aren't actually observing a human being. We are observing a highly curated performance of what that person believes the market wants to see.
It's an avatar.
It's a total avatar. Conversely, when human beings interact face-to-face, we are actively processing an immense amount of unfiltered data that our brains have evolved over millions of years to decode instantly.
Like body language and stuff.
Yeah, body language, but even micro-expressions. We register slight shifts in posture, vocal cadence, spontaneous reactions to a joke, eye movement. We decide if we trust someone or if we're drawn to someone in fractions of a second based on this physical, biological data.
Wow.
The digital world just flattens all of that rich data into a highly compressed JPEG. So the event organizers are arguing, and rightly so, I think that we are absolutely starving for that high bandwidth, unfiltered physical data.
I totally get that. But the environment where that data exchange happens matters immensely, right? Like if you put two people in a sterile interrogation room, that physical data gets completely skewed by the stress of the environment.
Oh, absolutely. The context is everything.
Right. And the organizers seem highly aware of this, which is why the physical setting of this Pensacola event feels very deliberate.
Yeah.
They aren't renting out some sad hotel conference room by the airport. The event is actually hosted at Bar JustA, which is located right down on South Balin Street in downtown Pensacola.
And that venue selection is a foundational piece of their behavioral design. In sociology, we have this concept called the third space.
The third space.
Yeah, it's essentially a place outside of your home, which is the first space, and outside of your work, the second space. It's where informal, relaxed public life happens. Cafes, pubs, community centers.
Okay, I see.
So by anchoring the event at Bar JustA, they're utilizing a third space that already signals leisure, sophistication, and organic socializing to the human brain. The promotional materials heavily emphasize this atmosphere of what they call sophistication meets low-pressure fun.
Yeah, they specifically highlight things like craft beers, boutique wines, and curated small plate pairings.
Right. And that environmental cueing is everything. If you place people in a brightly lit room with rows of numbered tables, their cortisol levels just spike.
Because it feels like taking the SATs or something.
Exactly. The brain interprets the setting as evaluative. It says, I am currently being judged. And when people feel judged, they become defensive and performative, which is, ironically, the exact same behavior we see on dating apps.
But if you dim the lighting...
Right. You dim the lighting, introduce high-quality food and drink, provide a sophisticated aesthetic, and the brain naturally shifts into a state of play and relaxation. It elevates the entire psychological baseline of the room before anyone even speaks a single word.
Okay, I hear you. I get the theory behind the dim lighting and the boutique wine, but I have to push back a little on the core premise here.
Okay, let's hear it.
We established that people are suffering from digital burnout because the sheer volume of interaction is exhausting, right?
Yes.
But isn't walking into a busy, noisy downtown bar that is filled with absolute strangers just as exhausting, if not more so? Like, I mean, for a massive portion of the population, trading the quiet isolation of scrolling in your sweatpants on the couch for the overwhelming sensory input of a room full of strangers sounds like jumping from the frying pan straight into the fire.
Oh, it sounds terrifying for a lot of people.
Right. It sounds like a fast track to social panic.
And that friction you're talking about, that is exactly why traditional, unstructured social mixers have such a high failure rate.
Yeah?
Think about the classic networking event or a local singles mixer. It requires immense emotional labor just to participate. You walk in, the room is already fragmented into these tight, closed circles of people who seemingly all know each other.
Which is the worst feeling.
It's awful. And then you are burdened with the terrifying task of physically breaking into a group and introducing yourself. It requires a level of extroversion that most people simply do not possess, especially after, a long 40-hour work week.
Yeah, I'd rather just go home.
Right. And the organizers of the speed mingle understand that just throwing a bunch of strangers in a room together doesn't cure burnout, it causes it. So the solution they've engineered is intense underlying structure. They remove the emotional labor of initiation entirely.
Okay, but how exactly do they pull that off without it feeling rigid? Because if unstructured is terrifying, hyperstructured can feel like a really bad corporate team building exercise, which is, its own kind of nightmare.
The trust fall.
Yeah, no thank you. But according to the source material, they accomplish this balance through what they call structured mini connections, which are these strictly timed conversational blocks lasting exactly 10 to 15 minutes.
And the duration of those blocks is a really crucial variable for us to analyze here. We really have to contrast a 15-minute window with the historical standard of speed dating, which typically relies on 3-minute rotations.
3 minutes is nothing.
3 minutes is a cognitive disaster. It forces people into a frantic elevator pitch. There is literally zero time to establish a narrative rhythm or to follow a natural conversational tangent. You are just forced to rapidly regurgitate biographical bullet points. Hi, I'm an accountant. I like dogs. I enjoy hiking. Please like me.
It's just a frantic data dump. You leave the table knowing their zip code, but you have no earthly idea if they're actually funny or kind or interesting.
Exactly. But expanding that window to 10 or 15 minutes, that fundamentally changes the conversational arc.
How so?
Well, it allows time for the initial awkward pleasantries to actually subside. It provides a runway for a topic to naturally develop, for a joke to land, and for a real natural back and forth rhythm to establish itself. You can actually assess conversational compatibility rather than just cross-referencing biographical facts.
But a 15-minute block is a double-edged sword, right? I mean, think about it. If you sit down and instantly realize within 30 seconds that you have absolutely nothing in common with the person across from you, 15 minutes can feel like an eternity in hell.
Right, it's brutal.
If the conversation stalls out at the 2-minute mark, the silence becomes physically painful. But it seems the organizers clearly anticipated this dread, which is why they introduce a mechanism to bridge that gap. They use a proprietary icebreaker called 52+2, the card game.
What's fascinating here is how implementing a physical card game as a conversational anchor is just a masterful stroke of social lubrication. It acts as a complete anxiety sink.
And the explicit goal of these cards, according to the deep dive materials, is to completely eradicate the single worst default question in modern society, which is, of course, so what do you do for work?
The ultimate conversational killer.
Right. We fall back on that question because it's safe, but it instantly forces people to define themselves entirely by their economic output. It turns a potential friendship or romance into a dry LinkedIn exchange. Instead, the 52+2 cards provide these engineered prompts designed to trigger fun, meaningful, and hilarious talking points. They bypass the resume and go straight for the authentic personality.
Yeah, and if we look at the game theory and psychology at play here, externalizing the conversation starter onto a literal deck of cards completely neutralizes the fear of rejection.
Like, it takes the blame off of you.
Exactly. Consider the immense pressure of approaching a stranger. You, as the individual, are solely responsible for generating a topic that is clever, engaging, and not overly intrusive. The cognitive load of that is staggering.
Oh, yeah, you're just sitting there sweating, running through a mental checklist. Do I mention the traffic? Is it weird to ask about the wine they're drinking? Did I already talk about the weather?
But the moment you place a deck of cards on the table between two people, you completely diffuse that pressure. The object itself becomes the focal point. The card acts as a scapegoat.
Right.
If a question is bizarre or highly philosophical, you don't look weird for asking it. You can both just laugh at the absurdity of the card. You bond over a shared task of answering it.
That's brilliant.
Conversely, if a card asks a deeply thought-provoking question that triggers a brilliant 15-minute debate about a core passion, well, the game facilitated that depth. It completely removes the friction of initiating vulnerability.
It's the difference between staring at a terrifyingly blank page and editing a rough draft. The card basically hands you the rough draft of a conversation so you can immediately start playing with it. I mean, think about the sheer volume of time wasted in the first hour of a standard first date.
So much time.
You spend 45 minutes hacking your way through this dense jungle of superficial biography, like where you grew up, your daily commute, your college major, just to reach the clearing where you finally find out if you actually enjoy their sense of humor. This card game, combined with the 15-minute time lock, it's designed to parachute you directly into that clearing.
It's an accelerant for intimacy, and we must define intimacy broadly here, right?
Okay, yeah?
It's not strictly romantic intimacy, it's the intimacy of understanding another human's cognitive framework.
Oh, I like that phrasing.
When you bypass the economic questions and instead answer a prompt about, say, an incredibly unpopular opinion you hold about a beloved movie, you are instantly transmitting data about your value system, your contrarianism, your humor, and your willingness to play. That is the exact data set required to determine genuine compatibility.
That is so true. But that brings up a really fascinating structural hurdle, though. Let's say the system works flawlessly. You sit down, the 52 plus 2 card sparks an amazing conversation. The 15 minutes just fly by, and you realize, wow, I really like this person.
A success.
Yes, but how do you like them? Because at a traditional mixer, this is exactly where the hidden agendas wildly clash. Maybe you think they'd be an amazing co-founder for your new startup, but they think you are aggressively flirting with them.
The classic misread.
Right. The misaligned intentions can completely ruin a great connection. And this is where the JustA Midsummer event radically pivots away from its predecessors and fully embraces the multi-track speed mingle concept.
Yeah, the organizers have addressed this hidden agenda problem by bringing all the subtext into the plain text. The event operates on a principle they call "you call the shots."
Which means?
It grants attendees pure chemistry control. Following every 15-minute rotation, the individual gets to decide entirely how they want to categorize that specific connection for the future.
Okay, so they've built 4 highly specific pathways, or what they term deal-breaker categories, to facilitate this. Let's break down the mechanics of these 4 pillars. The first one is networking, which they subtitle professional assent.
And this pathway acknowledges a reality of adult life. Ambition is a massive driver of social interaction we want to advance.
Absolutely.
It provides a formal avenue for attendees to seek out mentorship, pitch collaborative projects, or exchange high-level industry insights. But critically, because this professional connection is forged after playing the 52 plus 2 card game in a dim, relaxed bar, it entirely sidesteps the transactional, sterile feeling of a daytime corporate conference.
Right, you've connected as human beings first and professionals second. That is huge. Okay, the second pillar shifts gears entirely. It's friendship, which they label social synergy.
And sociologically speaking, this is massive. We know that adults face a severe deficit in platonic friendship formation once they leave the forced proximity environments of college or high school.
It is so hard to make friends as an adult.
It's incredibly difficult. We simply don't have natural mechanisms to do it. So this category legitimizes the explicit pursuit of platonic bonds. It provides total social permission to say, hey, I have zero romantic or professional interest in you, but I think you're brilliant and I really need a trivia partner.
Which removes all the awkwardness of trying to decipher if a coffee invite is actually a date.
Exactly. It normalizes platonic recruitment.
Love that. Now, the third pillar is dating, framed as romance and real chemistry.
This retains the traditional romantic pursuit, obviously, but the sequencing is what makes it innovative.
Right.
In the digital world, you filter for attributes first, and then you just cross your fingers and hope chemistry develops later on a date.
Right.
But here, the chemistry is established immediately during the 15-minute baseline in the real world. If both parties eventually select this pillar, the initial awkwardness of meeting is already conquered. The subsequent first date functions much more like a highly comfortable second date. You've completely bypassed the agonizing texting phase and the huge gamble of buying drinks for a total stranger.
You already know the conversational rhythm works. You know they can hold a conversation. And finally, the fourth pillar, which is honestly surprisingly candid for a public ticketed event. Casual fun, subtitled Spontaneous Adult Play.
The inclusion of this pillar is a real testament to the event's modern sensibilities. It strips away the moralizing that is so often found in organized dating structures, and it directly caters to those seeking low-commitment, high-energy interactions.
So like a summer sling.
Yeah. It could mean a brief summer romance, or simply an evening of light-hearted flirtation without the heavy expectation of a follow-up. But the crucial element here, which they stress in the materials, is that the organizers explicitly pair this category with clearly defined boundaries to maintain a strict ecosystem of respect.
Okay, so if you look at it all together, it functions entirely like a Swiss Army knife for human connection.
That's a perfect analogy.
You walk into the room and you have the corkscrew if
Yeah.
you're looking to open up a new romantic relationship. You have the screwdriver to tighten up your professional network. You have the scissors to cut out the noise and just find a gym buddy. It's basically a multi-tool for completely overhauling a stagnant social circle in one night.
It is, and the multi-tool analogy perfectly captures the utility, but we really have to understand why explicitly separating these tools is revolutionary for a mixer. Have you ever heard of the lemons problem in economics?
Like buying a bad used car.
Exactly. It describes a market where the seller knows more than the buyer, leading to a degradation of quality for everyone. Well, traditional mixers suffer from a social lemons problem.
Oh, interesting.
People arrive with highly asymmetric information regarding their intentions. The person earnestly looking for a spouse resents the person who is just looking for a quick hookup. The person looking for a serious business investor is deeply annoyed by the person who just wants a casual drinking buddy.
Because everyone is essentially speaking different language.
By explicitly defining these four pillars, the event neutralizes that asymmetric information. You only connect with people seeking the same outcome.
But hold on, wait. Setting up 4 entirely different social tracks under one roof sounds incredibly chaotic in practice.
Right.
Like, if I am paying for a ticket and my singular goal for the evening is to find a senior executive to mentor me in my career, meaning I am exclusively operating in the networking pillar, how do the organizers prevent me from spending my entire 2 hours being rotated into conversations with people who are exclusively looking for a casual summer romance?
That's a huge logistical risk.
Right. If our agendas are totally misaligned from the start, a 15-minute conversation isn't a connection. It's a hostage situation. How do they prevent that collision of intents?
That potential for total chaos is exactly why this event cannot rely on random physical rotation. To curate a multi-track environment effectively, they employ a highly sophisticated piece of invisible architecture. Because, despite marketing this as the ultimate in-real-life cure for digital algorithms, the entire evening is actually dictated by a massive proprietary matching algorithm running behind the scenes.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is the invisible hand guiding the room.
Precisely. Long before an attendee steps foot inside bar, JustA, or even touches a playing card, they are interacting with the event's SmartSync web app.
Okay.
The registration process requires the attendee to declare their intent up front by selecting their primary deal-breaker categories. But, as you pointed out, intent isn't enough to sustain a 15-minute conversation. The system requires granular data.
What kind of data?
Attendees must map out their personal landscape by selecting from a really broad yet distinct matrix of interests.
Yeah, and looking at the source material, they aren't just asking a basic, do you like movies question. The interest matrix covers huge, broad lifestyle indicators. It ranges from outdoor adventure and sports to arts, culture, and creative outlets. It gauges your interest in food and drink, health and lifestyle, intellectual stimulation, and gaming. They are basically building a comprehensive lifestyle profile of every person.
So the attendee feeds the SmartSync algorithm 2 vital data sets. What do I want out of this connection, and how do I spend my free time?
Right.
The algorithm then acts as this hyper-intelligent social sommelier. It cross-references these variables against the entire pool of registered attendees, calculating compatibility percentages in real time. It doesn't just look for exact one-to-one matches, it looks for overlapping nodes of interest that align with compatible connection pillars. So by the time the doors actually open on July 21st, the algorithm has already mathematically optimized the physical rotation schedule for every single person in the room.
That is wild. The instructions for the attendees are literally just to sit back. The software dictates all the physical movement throughout the night.
The profound irony of this system cannot be overstated. I mean, we are looking at an event whose entire marketing premise is escape the algorithm, yet it relies entirely on a massive algorithm to even function.
It's totally paradoxical.
It is, but there is a distinct difference in application here. The algorithms of social media are designed for infinite retention. They want to keep you glued to the screen forever. The SmartSync algorithm is designed for real-world deployment. It handles the brutal, exhausting calculus of compatibility pre-event so that the physical space is entirely cleared for organic, high-probability chemistry.
I see. It's essentially the ultimate respect for the attendees' time. Because in modern life, let's be honest, free time is our absolute most scarce resource.
Without a doubt.
If someone is sacrificing a beautiful summer Friday evening to attend this, the fear of a wasted night is incredibly high. This algorithmic curation mitigates that risk entirely. If you are a hardcore introvert looking for someone to debate literature with, the math ensures you won't be tracked for 15 minutes with a high-energy partier looking for a casual hookup. It takes the sheer exhausting randomness of the real world and imposes this hidden benevolent order to it.
It really represents an evolutionary leap in socializing. It basically cannibalizes the only truly usable aspect of dating apps, which is the ability to filter for baseline compatibility, and injects it directly into the tactile, sensory-rich environment of a physical bar.
But an event with this much moving machinery, relying so heavily on personal data and physical vulnerability, absolutely requires bulletproof logistics to pull off. So let's pivot to the execution side of this event. When you blend professional networking, platonic friendship, and romantic dating into a single app-driven ecosystem, privacy becomes the paramount concern. How do they handle the actual exchange of personal information?
The JustA Midsummer event employs a strict data containment policy, and it acts as a massive safeguard against the anxieties of those older speed dating models. Historically, the exchange of contact information was a severe friction point.
Oh, it was the worst part.
Right. You were forced to write your phone number on a physical card and trust some organizer not to lose it. Or worse, you had to endure the intense pressure of someone asking for your number directly to your face, which leads to awkward rejections or the panicked exchange of fake numbers.
Yeah, the classic, let me give you the number to the local pizza place just so you walk away maneuver. We all know exactly how uncomfortable that standoff is.
The SmartSync app completely digitizes and anonymizes that post-event connection. Inside the venue itself, zero personal contact information is exchanged. None. You operate purely on a first-name basis.
I love that.
When the event concludes, all mutual connection approvals and subsequent messaging are contained securely within the web app. The platform acts as a digital airlock. The attendee retains total sovereignty over when or if they ever migrate that conversation to their personal cell phone or their public social media.
And the privacy protocols extend way beyond just phone numbers, too. There's a fascinating, almost counterintuitive policy regarding the event's demographics. According to the breakdown, the organizers strictly refuse to disclose any registration data beforehand to the public.
And that is a phenomenal piece of behavioral engineering on their part. The organizers state they will not release total headcounts, they will not provide age ranges, and they absolutely will not disclose the gender identities or racial demographics of the registered attendees, neither before the event nor after.
Okay, I really have to challenge the logic there, though. Isn't it fundamental human nature to want to know what you are buying into?
Sure, it's natural.
Right. If you are paying for an experience, you want to assess the market. A 25-year-old single guy wants to know the gender ratio. A 50-year-old professional wants to ensure it's not going to be a room full of 21-year-old college students. By hiding the demographics entirely, aren't they just creating massive unnecessary anxiety for the buyer?
They are, but it creates short-term anxiety to prevent a long-term systemic failure.
How so?
Well, in behavioral economics, when you publish demographic data for a social event, you immediately trigger self-fulfilling prophecies. If people see the event is currently skewing slightly older, younger people will refuse to buy tickets, causing the event to skew entirely older. It turns a dynamic social gathering into a rigid commodity. People start shopping the guest list rather than remaining open to the experience.
Oh, I see.
By enforcing total demographic obscurity, the organizers force a psychological leap of faith from every single attendee.
It forces you to trust the algorithm, not your own biases.
Exactly. It mandates an open mind, and it aligns perfectly with their core ethos, that the most profound and genuine connections often happen when we strip away our preconceived filters and just allow unexpected chemistry to occur.
Wow. Speaking of taking a leap of faith, we need to examine the economic barrier to entry here. The pricing structure is incredibly specific. Tickets range from a low of $20.99 to a high of $41.69 when you factor in processing fees. But the cost is entirely dictated by urgency.
Yes, the timing is everything.
They offer an early bird tier at $19.99 alongside a 2-for-1 deal, both of which are aggressively cut off exactly 10 days prior to the event. Then the price bumps up to $29.99 for advance registration. If you wait until the actual day of the mingle to buy a ticket, the price spikes to $39.99. Now, charging $40 for a day of ticket to a mixer seems like a massive cash grab. What justifies a 100% markup at the door?
While it certainly generates revenue, the tiered pricing isn't really about greed. It's primarily a structural necessity for the algorithm. It functions as a behavioral commitment device.
A commitment device?
Yeah. We have to look at the mechanics of the SmartSync system again. To accurately calculate overlapping interests across 9 broad categories and 4 connection pillars, and then dynamically generate physical rotation schedules for an entire room of people, the system requires a locked data set.
Right, the math needs time to run.
Exactly. They cannot run a room-wide optimization algorithm if 20 people buy tickets 15 minutes before the doors open. It would crash the rotation. The heavy discount window closing 10 days out forces the audience to finalize the dataset early.
So it's a data gathering tax, essentially.
Partially, but more critically, the steep day of price combats the single deadliest threat to local event organizing: the flake rate.
The flake rate is so real.
It's terrible. In the modern era, RSVPing to a social event carries literally zero weight. People will agree to attend on a Tuesday, but if it starts raining on Friday, or if they simply feel a little tired after work, they won't show up. By forcing an early financial commitment, the organizers leverage the sunk cost fallacy for a positive outcome.
Oh, because you already spent the money.
Right. If you paid $20 2 weeks ago, you are statistically far more likely to force yourself off the couch and attend. The pricing structure isn't designed to penalize procrastinators. It's designed to curate a room full of highly invested, committed attendees, ensuring the ecosystem actually thrives when the doors open.
To ensure the attendees thrive once they are actually inside, the organizers provide a very brief set of instructions for success in their materials. They advise attendees to, quote, be authentic, keep an open mind, practice active listening, and remember to have fun.
Standard advice.
Right. At first glance, those sound like the kind of hollow platitudes you'd read on a boring corporate HR poster in a break room.
They do read as a bit simplistic, but within the context of this highly engineered environment we've been discussing, they are actually functional operating instructions.
So,
The organizers are basically saying, listen, we have handled the algorithm, we have curated the perfect venue, we have provided the ice-breaking game, and we have strictly structured the time. We have removed every single external variable that causes stress. Your only remaining responsibility is to be present and authentic.
that makes sense.
Active listening becomes entirely possible when the anxiety of formulating the next smart question is outsourced to a deck of playing cards.
So how do we synthesize all of this? The JustA Midsummer Speed Mingle in Pensacola is clearly positioning itself as far more than just a Friday night mixer. It is a highly deliberate, meticulously engineered counteroffensive against the sheer exhaustion of digital burnout.
A social rebellion almost.
Yeah. By merging the relaxed, sophisticated environmental cues of bar, JustA with a rigorous, invisible matching algorithm, they are attempting to build a truly safe harbor for real-world chemistry. They utilize the 52+2 cards to neutralize the anxiety of initiation, and they deploy a multi-track connection system allowing for networking, friendship, dating, or just casual fun to eliminate the toxic hidden agendas that plague traditional events.
There really is a structural hybrid.
It is. It's taking the precision of a dating app, the utility of a high-end business mixer, and the warmth of a party with friends, and compressing it all into a highly efficient 2-hour window.
And as a case study in modern social design, it is deeply fascinating. But examining the mechanics of this specific event leaves us with a much broader sociological question to ponder regarding our daily lives.
What's that?
Well, over the past decade, we have enthusiastically used technology to violently compartmentalize our identities.
Oh, entirely.
We have quarantined our professional ambition strictly to LinkedIn. We have isolated our romantic desires to Bumble or Tinder. We use entirely different separate platforms to find friends or engage in our hobbies. We have aggressively siloed the human experience.
We've built massive firewalls between the different facets of our own personality.
We have, and an event like this challenges that segregation entirely.
Yeah.
It poses a really vital question. What if the friction in our social lives isn't a lack of apps, but the over-categorization of our humanity?
Wow.
What if the person who would make an incredible collaborator for your next business venture is the exact same person who shares your obscure passion for vintage film trivia? By forcing us to segment our needs digitally, we may be artificially blinding ourselves to the most dynamic, multifaceted, organic connections available to us right now in the physical world.
That is such an incredible point. It's a reminder that human beings are complex ecosystems, not just singular data points waiting to be swiped. Thank you for diving into the mechanics of modern connection with us today. As you move through your week, take a hard look at the walls you might have built around your own social circles. Are you letting the digital silos dictate who gets to see the different sides of your personality? Or are you finding ways to step back into the chaotic, unfiltered, three-dimensional real world and letting your actual self do the talking? Something to really think about. We will catch you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for listening.
And watching on the new Speed Mingle TV network.